We just want to have a look at this carry-on palaver from Hobson's pledge in the New Zealand Herald, because there's been a bit more rollout of the story today. Media insider in the Herald, that's Shane Curry. Lawyers, legal academics say Hobson. This is actually quite impressive, actually. This is Shane Curry. He's the former editor for the New Zealand Herald. He's now the media journalist, I guess. And he's writing about what the New Zealand Herald did as a media writer in the New Zealand Herald. Legal academics say Hobson's pledge ad in New Zealand Herald was abhorrent and misleading. The lobby group stands by its claims. A group of more than 170 legal academics and lawyers say an advertisement for the Hobson's pledge lobby group published on the front page of the New Zealand Herald last week was, quote, abhorrent, end quote, and likely to, quote, mislead, deceive, or confuse customers both explicitly and by implication, ambiguity, exaggeration, and false representation, end quote. But Hobson's pledge is standing by the ad, inviting opponents to outline exactly what they have got wrong. Trustee Don Brash claims there is nothing untrue and that opponents are attempting to suppress political discussion and dissension. The group of lawyers, academics, as well as the Māori Law Society, the Auckland Women's Law Association, and the New Zealand Women's Law Journal said in a statement today that the ad was likely to fuel racism against Māori and set out 4 key points where they say the advertisement was misleading. First, the advertisement called for the restoration of the foreshore to public ownership, says the group of signatories. The foreshore has never historically been in public ownership. It is not owned by anybody except for the areas of the foreshore that are currently in, mainly non-Māori, private ownership. Secondly, they say what the ad implied, that customary marine titles gave iwi, hapu and or whānau the right to own parts of the foreshore. This is not true. On the contrary, the legislation's effective extinguishment of Māori property interests in the foreshore has been found to breach their human rights by UN human rights bodies that oversee New Zealand human rights compliance. In other words, international courts are saying, you guys are discriminating against Māori for not allowing them to do that. So that shows how much that's not allowed. Thirdly, they say the ad implied a customary marine title would prevent New Zealanders from accessing beaches, including to fish and swim. This is not true. The legislation enabling the award of customary marine titles secures public access to the foreshore. And fourthly, they say that contrary to the impression created by the advertisement, there are very hard legal tests to be met before a whaitapu, including a rahui, will be recognised. Moreover, waihi tapu are subject to statutory restrictions and cannot, for example, prevent fishers from taking their lawful entitlement in a quota or fisheries management area. The group says Hobson's pledge is entitled to robust expression of opinion, but are not entitled to mislead and deceive consumers. Now, there's a couple more things I want to play for you off this. There's also a bit of an interview this morning with a lawyer, but I want to highlight one thing. Trustee Don Brash claims there is nothing untrue and that opponents are attempting to suppress political discussion and dissension, right? So today, I invited Don Brash to come on the show, to come and talk with Matthew Tukaki about this conversation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so he wants a discussion and we offered it to him.
I have sent an email.
Coming on?
Well, I've sent an email to Hobson's pledge, right? And I have said, come on the show in a debate format. And I'm honest. I said, we have a political bias here, without question. I've done this before in lots of different ways. We can be a more neutral platform and let you two guys discuss it. In fact, we have good standing in that conversation. If you're watching us on YouTube at the moment, have a look at the playlist that's called Elephant TV. Elephant TV is simply a debate show. So you can see we've done this before. So we sent the offer out. Where is Elephant TV, Chewy? Where am I looking? Blind. Well, there it is there. So there it is. This is Elephant TV. I'll mute it. So we've done a couple of test ones. There was one on affordable quality housing as a right. This is a property investor and Julianne Genter. We did hate speech laws necessary. And then that we had
That's a good one.
Paul Hunt, who was the Human Rights Commissioner, and Daphne Whitmore, who was a Marxist and a free speech advocate. The thing about doing debates, and you need to get over this, baby birds, if you've got a problem with it, is you're likely to have a position that comes on that you are not in favour of. That's what a debate is. Anywho, and we will do those. Like me and Chewy in consultation, there's not going to be anyone making a mother-all decision, but that will happen. But I have sent an invitation to Don Brash. I have standing with Don Brash. We've had run-ins in the past. I don't know how he'll respond to it, but I've said we can be the platform. We want to host you guys. They've just said in that thing that they're happy to talk about it. We've said come and talk about it. We will see what they say. Matthew's in. I've already texted Matthew. His response was, of course. And I've sent it to Don Brash. And what we'd like to be able to do is do it live at 9 o'clock one night. And if we did that, that would be the show for that night. Can't be this Friday because I'm not going to be here, but meaning not going to be in Dunedin, but something. So just letting you know that's out there. Some people wouldn't show you what's going on behind the curtain because if you don't get the interviews, it can be a bit like, oh shit, didn't get the interview. But we think the opposite. We'll tell you who we've contacted, and if they don't see the need to come on, then that probably speaks more to them than us. So this week, David Seymour, Nicola Willis, Christopher Lux and Don Brash have all been contacted to come on the show at some stage. We will see what happens. Now, Chewy, back to the Hobson Pledge conversation. There's more to play. I've got another little clip to play and some more about Don Brash, but do you want to speak to that to start off with right now, what the law experts were saying?
No, let's roll on.
Okay, let's keep on trucking. Hobson, now this is the other thing, we did hear this last night, but here's a confirmation of it. New Zealand Herald publisher NZB rejects the new Hobson Pledge advertising, saying it's reviewing advocacy advertising. Remember I said last night, because I'm a media nerd, I'd like to know what was going on in NZME in the New Zealand Herald to get that actually approved. Well, New Zealand Herald publisher NZME says it will not run a planned new advertisement from the Hobson's Pledge lobby group following the publication of a controversial front page newspaper ad last week. Hobson Pledge planned to place a new ad in the Herald newspaper this Wednesday. Trustee Don Brash said in an email statement to supporters on Monday. Oh, that's actually something else. I sent an email to Hobson's Pledge. Within 2 hours, I got an email back from Hobson Pledge having been added to their email out group. I was just like, excuse me. So I got that email.
I do not want to subscribe to your newsletter.
Unsubscribe.
Sorry.
So I think I'm going to start using the Big Hero News email more if people are going to do that to me. Anyway, Don Brash said in an email statement to supporters on Monday afternoon, reinforcing that it would not back down on its commentary about ownership of the foreshore and seabed. NZME has since said in a statement the ad would not be published. We are reviewing our policies and processes around advocacy advertising, and we have advised Hobson Pledge that we will not be running their advertisement, said a NZME spokeswoman. It is understood the matter will be discussed by the company's executive team. Finally, this clip is short. How long is this clip? Yeah, it's about 2 minutes. This is a Māori legal expert, was talking this morning on breakfast about what was wrong with the advertisement. Let's have a listen to what he had to say, and then we can wrap up.
Māori legal expert Carwyn Jones joins me now. Carwyn, good morning.
Morena.
You look at that front ad and it reads, restore the foreshore and seabed to public ownership. Was public ownership ever taken away?
Well, what we have in the situation in the Marine and Coastal Area Act now is that the title to the foreshore and seabed can't be owned by anybody. So it can't be owned by Māori, and it's effectively held, owned by nobody, but in many ways, the same kind of regime that you would expect in a sort of public ownership regime exists.
What were your initial thoughts when you saw this ad?
Well, my thoughts were that this is incredibly misleading, inaccurate, and clearly designed to whip up anti-Māori sentiment.
And when you talk about anti-Māori sentiment, it went on to state most Kiwis have no idea that almost New Zealand's entire coast is currently under application before the courts to be awarded to iwi as customary marine titles, as you mentioned. What goes through your mind when you see that kind of ad?
Well, that statement's clearly intended to make people think that Māori will be taking ownership of the foreshore, and that clearly isn't the case. It's clearly prohibited by the The only people's property rights are being taken. Sorry, the only people's property rights who are taken away by the Foreshore and Seabed Act and now the Marine and Coastal Area Act were Māori.
Yeah.
NZME have issued a statement which we will read later on, but it says the ad is clearly labelled as a paid content. So what is the problem?
Well, I think the concern would be that this is clearly misleading and inaccurate, and I'm not sure that the Herald's under any obligation to simply take whatever propaganda it wishes to other lobby groups wish to publish.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we said last night. You know, if it was an anti-vaxxer group and they wanted to do something on, you know, myocarditis and the vaccine, I'm sure NZME would say no. Well, you would hope they'd say no, but because it's not, and it's maybe a bit more sort of political and questionable in some people's minds, they took the money. It's pretty gross. So that's the carry on today. I did contact a lawyer this very, very late though. I might see if I can get her on tomorrow night, one of the signatories to the letter, but didn't have time to do that today. But we kind of covered it all off in a long diatribe by Uncle Pat. What are your thoughts, Archu?
I would love to have a bunch of money to like test that theory, right? To buy a full wrapper for the New Zealand Herald and just put some outrageous bollocks that I would crowdsource out of our chat, and just go, hey, look, I clearly indicated that this is a paid-for presentation by Chewy of Dunedin, and yeah, birds aren't real. I don't know. Yeah. And if you do think that birds are real, then the government is coming for our guns. Just something like, what the fuck were they thinking? And like you were talking yesterday with Matt about that that CTU wrapper.
Yeah,
I don't think that was okay either. I think like I am against any like large format advertising in a newspaper. Like when there's a half-page ad above the fold, it's bullshit. When there's a wrapper around the entirety of the newspaper, bullshit. Like, I know that these media organizations need to have income and advertising as part of it. I just specifically do not like that form of advertising. It is even more egregious when it's fucking Hobson's Choice pulling out a bunch of scaremongering bullshit that is only going to appeal to the frothy racists that fall for it. You know, as a billboard, that is excellent. As a wrapper for a major newspaper, not so much. Wasn't a fan.
I did some contract work for a religious radio station in New Zealand, and they had quite a firm rule on no advertising on Sundays, and they didn't take money from alcohol or from, you know, racing or that kind of stuff. I can well remember someone came along about the Melbourne Cup in November, and the sales manager there tried left, right, and every which way to try and figure out how to take their money to do it, even though it was explicitly stated that we don't do, you know, advertising from gambling. So this is not a New Zealand Herald thing. This is a media thing. It's all about that bottom dollar. And can I just say, this is a slight tangent, but it does relate. When we're talking about charter schools, this is business. Business will do anything they can to get their hands on money. It's always about hitting those targets, those KPIs. It's always about a return to the investor, right? Now think about business people like taking that kind of money for advertising. And now think about that and now plop that ethos onto our education system. It's a scary thought. It's a scary thought. Anyway. We've got sorry, you go.
Oh, sorry. Just because we are again talking about this Hobson's pledge, whatever.
Hobson's choice.
Thing.
Hang on, Hobson's choice. That's like Sophie's choice. So we have to let one of them be killed by the Nazis. Okay, now we're talking. So which one are we going to let go with Hobson's choice?
I choose to sacrifice.
We won't do
Don
that.
Brash
We won't do that tonight. We're not going to talk about 5 days out of amber and Hobson's choice in one show.